Hello, I'm Adam Walter. I'm the band director over at Ridgeway High School, and I want to go over some basic clarinet tips for you, some warm-ups. And I want to stress that these warm-ups, they are not advanced warm-ups, beginner warm-ups, intermediate. These are just good all-around warm-ups that you can use with any of your students or you can use yourself. Um, the first thing that I want to talk about is an exercise that David Weber used to teach to his students. David Weber was a world-renowned clarinet teacher up in New York City in Juilliard. Um, and what he would do is this long tone where he would take chromatic scales and he would do them very slowly, going from soft to loud, um, like this. Now, I want to stress that I did not study with David Weber, so if there are students of David Weber's out there that say this is not how he taught this, you have my apologies. I'm only going by what I've seen on the warm-up page. Uh, Either way, when I do them this way, I find it's very effective. I usually go from this E, this low E, going up in increments of just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Up to doing it on this E, same thing. 5 notes up, 4 notes down. All right? And it's important that every now and that you breathe after the end of each phrase and you try to make the notes as consistent as possible. Now, whenever you're moving your fingers this slow or playing something this slowly, you should really make sure that your hand position is good. I notice that whenever I teach, I see students and they have to play a C, they put their hand down at the side like this. You've got to think of the clarinet like these are your home keys right here, and the note fingers float above them at all times so that you can just go only two directions, up or down. That's it. They shouldn't come from underneath or around or anything like that. They should always be above. The fingers should be curved, right? And you shouldn't have any, let's see if we can get a close up here, where the finger sort of bunches in like this and it twists up or it goes over the key like that. You should be using these pads on your fingers. Now, for you advanced players, this is the time for you to really work on your technique. And I know you're thinking that you're working on whole notes, you're working on long tones. But, you should use this opportunity to make sure, is my hand position correct? All right? Is everything that I am doing here, am I lifting up too far? Am I coming from underneath? Are my fingers in the wrong position? Am I holding on to the rod over here? This is when you should do this, when you're operating very slowly. Now, for those of you students out there that are having trouble playing the low E so far, all right, you don't have to start on the low E. You can also start on a G, you can start on an A, it doesn't matter. And if you don't know the fingerings, open up your clarinet fingering chart. If you don't have a book or you don't have one, just go online, download fingering chart, and what you do is you just circle the note that you're going to start on. And then every note in between that note and the one you want to end on is your chromatic scale. Okay? Again, a warning. Sometimes they'll have 2 or 3 different fingerings for one note. All right? It doesn't mean you go through each fingering. It just means that when you're doing this, you pick the fingering that's going to be the best one. And that's a whole topic for another time. Okay? So I usually start off every practice session doing this long tone study. the next thing that you want to start doing is warming up your fingers. Now, my teacher, Leon Rushnoff, used to talk a lot about finger position, right? And I have this wonderful book that he wrote here, okay? And I'm going to tell you what makes this book so wonderful is that every one of these pages in here, he explains to you how to play each thing. He doesn't just put on there, here's a scale exercise, do these patterns. He tells you exactly for pages beforehand what way to move your fingers. One of the first exercises that he did with me, and I remember I was older, I was in college, and he had me playing, just going G to D over and over again. And what he would do is he would say, I want you to, before you play it, I want you to look at your fingers. And so the process is that you look at your fingers on the G, and you count it, and you hold 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you move to the D. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can do this with any exercise in any interval, but the trick is when you're watching your fingers, are they all moving together? Is one moving faster than the others? Is one finger bent? Are you holding on to the rods? And the idea is that when you do this, that you should be really making a conscious effort to make sure that your finger positions are where they should be. So, for instance, I would do this exercise and then we'd have me play it. Okay? And the whole purpose of this is watch your fingers. And please, you don't discount it as that's too easy. Of course it's easy, but that's not the point. The point is it's not that easy if you're looking and trying to make sure, are you playing it absolutely right? One of the other exercises that he used to do, he used to call them with some of his other students pendulum exercises. I write these out for my private students and I call them Rushnoff studies. But just taking a concert B flat scale, your C scale, just the first 5 notes. And it's really simple. And I advise my students, when you do this, look at a mirror. I want to show you something. Watch this. Okay, and it's completely wrong. Because, see, this hand, even though we're not using it, is in the wrong position. So this exercise is for both hands, really. All right? Is to make sure, is this hand staying in the right position, in the home position? Are you cheating? Are you putting it down? Are you holding it underneath? Are you going like this? Are you just sort of holding it off to the side? All right? The idea is you have to have the position there so that if all of a sudden you need to go down to that G, the fingers are already there. They're not coming from underneath, and that's when most of your squeaks happen. It's not your reed, it's your fingers coming down in the wrong places. Okay? So that was the first part of the exercise. It's, again, 5 notes, simple. All right? Any student can do this at any level. All right? Then after, and whatever you do, don't try to do it fast. All right? Do it slow. Turn a metronome on. All right? This is metronome 70. All right? So the first part is just moving the first 2 fingers. Okay? Now that you've done just the first 2 fingers, now you're going to do the last 2 notes. Okay. Then after that, you take just the first three notes. And then after that, the last three notes. Okay. All right. So those are the first couple of exercises for a warm-up. Now, we're about 10 minutes into it here, and I'm going to tell you that if you're doing this and you've gone through the whole chromatic package and warm-up, it's probably going to take you about 15-20 minutes to get to this point, all right? And this is your warm-up, and there's still more warm-up. I want to talk to you a little bit about the tongue right now, okay? When you're tonguing, we talk about the attacks in music, and some of you teachers will say ta, tu, te, te, right? What it really comes down to is, this is the reed, this is your tongue on the reed. Your reed's vibrating really fast, and the air's coming through here, and your tongue is coming along, and it's stopping the air from getting into the instrument, right? But that's not the tonguing. The tongue is when the tongue pulls off the reed and release the air. I have students do this, all right? If you just sort of blow normally, and then you cut off the air like that with your hand, keep the air pressure going. That's really how your tongue should be working, all right, as a release of the air into the instrument. So the air speed and the air pressure has to be constant, right? Position of the tongue, tip of the tongue to about here on the reed, not coming down this way, but about there. Now, this is not necessarily the way it's going to work for everybody. Some people are going to tongue with their tongue a little bit off to the side. Some it's going to be a different side of the reed. It won't be perfectly. But for you starting out right now, until you find out where your comfortable spot is, it's best to just go and do it with your tongue right on that part of the reed. Rushinoff used to have us do a tongue check where he'd have us stick our tongue out and then touch the reed to sort of create a memory of where it would go on the reed. And the idea is that you would remember that part when you were tonguing. So what I want us to do, just open G right now, okay? I'm going to just play with only one hand right now because I want to show you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the air with my tongue when I go like this. Okay, and the idea is you're doing that all on one breath, and you're keeping your diaphragm muscles pushed out, right? And you're keeping the air pressure going so that you're not inhaling in here. You just inhale once before, you inhale, and that's a whole other session, breathing, right? But inhale. I'm letting it leak out a little so you can hear that the air pressure is still coming. So a good exercise for that is hold the G for 4 counts, and then put your tongue to stop the air, all right? And then keep it with your tongue on reed, keeping the air pressure built up so that you have 4 counts of silence, and then you release the air. And you see how many measures you can do that for. Don't worry about speed of tongue right now. Right now, worry about is your tongue hitting the right place on the reed, and is it actually stopping the air, or are you stopping and sort of like re-inhaling beforehand, okay? That's about all I want to try to do with you all today. Thank you so much. And next time we'll talk a little bit more about fingers, finger motions, scales, and perhaps a little bit more on tongue and the speed of the tongue. But this really should be enough to get you through about a half hour of practice. And you don't want to start off the first day great guns when you haven't played in a while and do 2 hours or an hour right away. You want to take things very slowly and carefully. Thank you so much.